Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Our Community with Whitney Prather. Learn about what's happening in Stark and Tuscaroras counties and the surrounding areas. We're going to highlight interesting people, businesses, organizations, churches, events, and even more. Stay tuned. Jake Thomas is a writer and director whose work has been celebrated by film festivals and screenwriting contests worldwide. His feature film, Shedding, was nominated for the Independent Visions Award, Best Picture at the 2020 Sarasota Film Festival, and his other movies and scripts have ranked in the Blue Cat Screenplay Competition, the Kairos Prize for Spiritually Uplifting Screenplays, the Burbank International Film Festival, the Cleveland International Film Festival. Are you hearing me right now? He's awesome. And the Warner Bros. Employee Film Showcase. Jake and I go way back to 2003. And so I was so thrilled to catch up with him. Let's go. Well, Jake, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today. You're in California, but you have a really exciting project that you want to showcase. And this is your hometown. So before we get to that, this is your hometown, right? You grew up here.
This is my hometown. I grew up in Canton. I went to school at Heritage Christian School on 6th Street, and I went to college at Malone College when it was called Malone College. So Canton, Ohio, born and raised my whole life, and then I moved to California to work in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and your mom is Susie Thomas, who she's a big deal. She was the host of the show prior to me coming on. So ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Jake Thomas here. But you're
a lot of fun memories of WNPQ events.
yeah. But you're established in California now, and I want to kind of know what your journey was like, getting to California from Canton, Ohio.
So I was thankfully able to move out here thanks to a job that I got through an internship with a program called the Los Angeles Film Studies Center, which other Malone students could go to for studying filmmaking. And my very first job was working for Gary Marshall, the late Gary Marshall, at his company. And then since then, I've been working as a script reader, working at 3 different studios over the last decade. My wife, Erin, was also working out here, freelancing as an editor and a director. We've been married for 9 years. We got married in Akron at the Civic Theater. And then we've been working on a lot of projects together, short films, scripts, and even this feature film. She's a producer on it.
And Erin is also a Malone grad. So that's wonderful, correct?
That's correct. Yep. Erin and I met at Malone College.
So I have really fond memories of you freshman year, Malone. I wanted
Learning
to
cluster.
not embarrass you about any of them, but I can just remember how you took your notes. I don't know if that is something that you can remember, but I remember you taking your notes all on like one piece of paper.
Were they really tiny?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That was the habit. I don't know why that started. That was a habit that developed in high school where like I just started writing. It's like, well, there's a lot of space here. Let me squeeze more in. And people would just look over my shoulder and be like, how can you read that? And it's like, I don't know. Here's the weird thing about that though, is like squeezing a lot of notes into every single margin of a notebook paper, like you're looking at it. And eventually you start to like kind of squeeze certain sections into shapes. It might have been helpful as like a memory map come exam time, because then you kind of think about, okay, this question. I kind of remember what this looked like. It was shaped like a square in the bottom left-hand corner of a notebook paper in a spiral-bound notebook. I think I remember. Oh, yeah. Maybe it was tied to picture memory or something, but yeah, I've always had compliments and or concerns expressed about.
I think I was just amazed, and I'm even more amazed to know that you recalled it during tests. Like that's a great look at your mind. So you had multiple jobs while you've been a writer. Now you're a filmmaker. Tell me about those roles. Like what does that look like?
I mean, a lot of it is gig to gig and project to project. So there's some things that you can do that you can get hired for. Like for a while, I was a script reader who would read feature scripts and write up what's called coverage, which is basically a book report, so that executives don't have to read the whole script. If they want to know the story, they can just read your page and know what it, basically know the story at a glance. And I did that for a couple of movies that eventually came out. Like I remember reading Marshall 4 or 5 years ago. Hereditary, a movie called Gifted with Chris Evans eventually came out. So like it was fun because you'd see these scripts come through, you read them, and then like 3 years later, I'd see a trailer in the theater and be like, "Hey, I think that looks familiar. I think I've read that before." And sometimes they change the title, but and then other things are kind of like projects you just get started on your own, and a lot of that involves table reads with friends. Like a lot of times short scripts that I've written, short scripts that my wife has written, she reads with them with people over Zoom. And then doing a lot of crowdsource fundraising to raise the money to make a short or make a feature or like finish post-production on a feature, so that you can then get it to different festivals and get in front of both festival programmers and then also possible distributors or sales representatives. So that's a lot of work that takes just kind of proactive, planning, strategizing, things that Aaron are really good at that I'm learning as I go. Because
is that the process that you kind of had to take with this film that you're working on right now that's just been released?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, let's just talk about it, because this is an exciting project. It's called Shedding. It's a film for cat people. So I definitely need to hear more about it.
Well, so it's for cat people because it literally stars a cat person, and it's a fantasy film that asks the question, what would happen if my cat turned into a person, and what adventures would he get on in the day, and who would he help along the way, basically. So I was inspired, of course, by the cats we live with, and one that we rescued that was born in the yard of a house next door years ago. He's a playful guy, but I just, was experimenting around with some camera technology, filmed the cats, and was cutting some stuff together and got the idea for a story, and recruited actors. We were filming things on our own. And then after the rough cut of the movie was all put together, we did some fundraising for the post-production, like the music and the sound effects to put all together. And we've been playing in festivals earlier this year.
Wonderful.
So it's been a long process, but it's kind of neat to see it finally coming to fruition, and we're excited to get it out there in the world.
Yeah. So it's going to be released pretty soon here, right? Like
December 8th, Tuesday, December 8th, it'll be available on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, Google Play, and also on demand.
Nice. Tell me more about the film. Like, tell me what it's about. So this cat turns into a human, and then...
So yeah, the main character is a cat, and he basically, his whole life, he's a house cat. So he's just lived inside and wanted to go outdoors, but can't because, of course, he's a cat and can't really get outside without the owner letting him. One morning, he mysteriously, magically, suddenly wakes up with a human body, finds he's able to eventually get out into the world and start exploring everything that he longed to see. And it's funny because, of course, being a cat, he doesn't understand the concept of clothes. So that when he's out there, people are a little surprised to see him. But then there's this one character who he comes across who takes him in, clothes him, feeds him, kind of becomes his guide for the day and kind of shows him like all the fun places you can go. And you find out that he resembles someone that she lost recently, and his presence in her family, which has kind of undergone kind of a crisis because of a loss in the family, they're able to come to grips with their grief and find healing just with him being around, and he helps them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very sweet. It's very heartfelt.
Yeah.
And I like it.
So how long is this film? Is it a full length?
This is a feature length film. Yep.
Okay. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So how did you source the actors? Is it anyone that we know? Like, how did you go about finding the people?
So a lot of the actors were friends I know, and I was familiar with their work. The main actor is named Lex Quarterman, and he is a trained acrobat and mime. And I'd seen his work in a Sundance movie called Primate Cinema, which basically he played a gorilla in costume, and they filmed gorillas watching this movie with humans playing gorillas. And I knew about that. And so when I had the idea, I came to him first because I thought he would be perfect for it. And also he would be the person to be like, oh yeah, I think I can pull off
Cat-like behavior.
Cat-like behavior. And then also the cat's behavior evolving to be more human as the story went on.
Right.
So, because he does a lot of expression with his eyes, with his body, he's a natural performer in that way. And the other actors I knew from their past work, we have an actress named Carla Drogi. She's been on TV shows like Pretty Little Liars. She was in Big Fish. I came to her. We actually knew each other from our church that we went out here because we were both deacons for a few years at a church called Ecclesia.
Oh, yeah.
And then one of the other actors I met, her name is Jacqueline Zook. I met her in a writing class called Act One, which is a writing program that was started by Barbara Nicolosi for basically Christians who are interested in getting into screenwriting or producing in the industry, kind of like a way to get in, learn the craft, and then even have some training to write spec scripts for TV shows.
Right. Very cool. So what has that been like? Let's transition to just the Christian aspect. What has it been like to be in a Christian network of actors and producers? Like, have you found community? I found a lot of community. Yeah. There's a lot of churches out here. There's a lot of folks who move out to Los Angeles to work in the industry, but they find a home base in a church that's out here. And my wife and I have been going to ours, Ecclesia, literally ever since we were still in school out here. So for the last 13 years, and it's moved locations all around. But the people that go there, like they're actors on TV shows, they're writers and directors on TV shows that you've seen, like Arrested Development, Young Sheldon. They're directors of DC animated movies like Batman Hush that was out. Like they all go there, and you're not. The big thing to remember is like if you're afraid of a big city like Los Angeles or moving to some place that kind of has a reputation for being hostile to Christian faith, there's a bigger community out here than you think, and they work in all aspects. Not only of, I mean, it's very industry focused as a city for sure, but it really just depends on the circles that you run in. And what you find is that there's just so many of everyone everywhere. And one of the big things that they do is not necessarily like wear their faith on the sleeve, but you can tell just by their behavior, you can tell by how hard they work and how they do their job that they're really, devoted. And also everyone's really supportive of each other by doing as much as, reading a script, giving advice, letters of referral for writing workshops, and even like supporting both and sharing each other's crowdfunding campaigns, and then also lots of stuff like that. But no, it's a really big community, and that was one of the things I was surprised after living out here for so long. I was like, I don't think people realize just how large of a faith-based workforce is in the entertainment industry. I think that is super encouraging. Have you had the opportunity to interface with any students? Like, have you come along any? You mentioned that you were a Malone student out there. Have you gotten an opportunity to interface with any other Malone students while you have been there?
Yes, I've interfaced with a lot of Malone students because there was, for a number of years, there was a large crop of us that kind of came out here in waves. Yeah. And over the years, that number has fluctuated, but there's still a lot that are out here. Me and my best friend, we still have lunch as often as well now during the pandemic. If we can have lunch in a park together, like every other week or once a week, we still meet up and have lunch, so we can keep in touch. And when the Los Angeles Film Studies Center was still open, so this would have been like the previous years, they always had what was called Life After LAFSC, and you could basically, it was an open invitation to alumni to come and just talk about what their journey was like after school, both looking for jobs, working on your own projects, and stuff as simple as the best places to find an affordable apartment, shop, just like kind of the ins and outs of going from a city the size of Canton, which is where like a lot of the colleges in that program are, to a city the size of Los Angeles. Both have their pros and cons.
Right.
Yes. I will say right now, for anyone who's listening to this, if it's like, I've been thinking maybe, after the pandemic's over, I'd like to go out and maybe try, work in television, work in movies, music, something that's entertainment focused. And if you find yourself out here in Los Angeles living for a year or two, my first piece of advice is that's perfect. What you should do is set aside between $75 and $100, and that is your first parking ticket money. Just label that in an envelope, parking ticket money. Set it aside, forget about it, and that way, when you get that first parking ticket, you don't have to fret, you don't have to worry. It's already taken care of. It's going to happen. There's no avoiding it. So just accept that and prepare for it.
That's a large chunk of change for.
Oh, they don't mess around. They want to make sure you learn your lesson as soon as you can.
Very cool. So what are some of the other projects that you might be excited about? Like, do you have other things in the works right now?
After this, one of the other things I'm working on is a TV pilot for contests and festivals. It's about the comic book industry in the 1960s. And then also I'm helping my wife workshop a couple of things that she's been working on with her writing partner, a feature film, and also a pilot that she's been working on as well too.
I love that you guys are able to work together and just be able to just have such a resource in each other. That's very cool. How has it been working with Aaron?
Oh, we work together. We can go for hours on end, actually. And what's great is then, if you're like have dinner out, dinner in, she's a working director. And then it's like, well, we talked about business during this dinner. So this is a business expense because we were workshopping a script the entire time. And she'll have me read things and like, I'll dwell upon them. And, it's like a conversation. And since, and especially during this time too, for the last 8 months or so, just been able to it kind of exercises your brain a little bit to talk about other things outside of, the four walls that you find yourself surrounded by most days. And I enjoy it. I enjoy like working out story with her and stuff like that.
How has this pandemic affected your creativity? Like, has it been super energizing to you, where you've been able to work on a ton of content and just come up with things, or has it been negative?
I think like with everyone, since it's now gone on for like 8 or 9 months, you find yourself just kind of in different ebbs and flows of things where you feel like energized and then other days you maybe watch or read the news too much and you feel a little disheartened by the progress of things. But I think one of the important things to do is just kind of set aside time to do something. Right. I've done a lot of journaling during this time, which is like writing without criticism, which is that's right. It's because you just put down what you want and then that's it. And I like setting aside a time to do that, and also like setting time aside to go for a walk, stretch your legs, get some exercise, get outside, and like you need to do that so that it's very easy to become a little too insular, I think. And also then it's become very easy for me sometimes to worry about things that ultimately weren't worth worrying about, which I won't go into too much detail on, but just there's a lot, there are things to pray about. There are things definitely to be concerned about. And there's other things that because of, how everything is at the time, you might blow out of proportion in your imagination and imagine the worst. But
right.
I think my challenge has been trying to tell myself not to let that get in, not to be a huge obstacle or even like a red light on any progress that I can make in my career, or the smallest progress. And sometimes that's setting a timer for 30 minutes on the desk, sitting down and writing and researching the next script.
Yeah. What are some of the big things that you feel like you've just learned from being like in California, being in the industry? What are some big takeaways that you think you've learned?
One of the big takeaways that I've learned from living out here in California, I'll address that first. Time goes much faster without seasons. It doesn't have anything to do with the industry, but
What?
you tend, well, like, like when I was growing up, there was spring, summer, winter, fall, and out here, it's kind of like there's, it's really, really hot, or it's cooler in like the 50s or something like that. But you tend to lose track of, wintertime, springtime, because it's more similar than, the leaves falling, the changing the seasons. So, it's nice. You need to find other ways to mark out time, I guess, or at least that's how it is in Southern California. Working in the entertainment industry, at least where I've worked, is that every role is important. Like, it's so easy to concentrate on the names that which might be the famous actors, the famous directors, or in this case, like the famous characters in the franchise movies and the blockbuster movies. But every role that works on a set is vitally important, and I've learned that both working like behind the scenes on some big sets and just seeing how coordinated everything needs to be able to get a TV show or get a movie finished. And also working independently, just knowing like all the different things that you kind of have to take on yourself, and then like know how to share with other people as well. Like all those things that they do, very, very important. And I think those are the people that, a lot of times, since they can be forgotten about, like they have unions and things like that. But I think it's good when people talk about like, I pray this for the entertainment industry, I pray that for the entertainment industry. I think it's really the people who work in it, and all the people are important to remember when that's on your heart.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. It's all the people. Like, for instance, you mentioned that you occupied a role where you wrote a summary. I don't think the majority of us know that a person like that even exists. So
script readers.
Yeah.
And assistants do that too. People who, work as assistants to an executive, or, scheduling their calendar for them, booking their plane tickets when that was a thing. And then also like reading scripts and also reading entire books, and trying to summarize that in like, 2 or 3 pages so that someone can get the entire gist of a, 500-page Tom Clancy novel without having to spend the entire week or 2 weeks reading it.
Yeah. So you're in the industry, you and your wife. What are some of your prayers? What do some of your prayers look like for the industry?
Right now, the industry is, of course, like so many, there's productions that have to stop and start because, the companies that can afford to do constant testing. They'll do it. You have to shut down for a number of days. So like it's the more expensive that it becomes while productions are trying to work through the pandemic. A lot of smaller stuff might get pushed aside because they simply can't afford the COVID compliance protocols that are necessary. So just like everyone, like finding a way to end this, to kind of everyone team together and work through this so that we come out the other side and are able to, have learned the better things that we can do in, working and then kind of adopt those. Yeah. That was a rambling sentence. The other thing is, with like a lot of avenues and places to see movies and shows, since it's all kind of moving into streaming, there's again a lot of shifts in, I'll say, like employment, different things, like a lot of different companies that have been employing people for decades now, since they have to kind of like streamline down and focus more on their streaming avenues than maybe like their theatrical distribution or anything like that. There's a lot of folks who have been working at, in office jobs and studios for 3+ decades that now find themselves without work because of different things. So a lot of things that I think need prayer out here are the same in a lot of different industries, which is just, the way things have shifted over the last year. Just a lot of folks kind of have to find to reinvent themselves and find more work and ways to support themselves and support their families.
What is your favorite show right now? Do you watch while you write? Like, what's your favorite?
We've watched. I kept a running list of stuff that we've been watching during this time. Like some things we watch together, some things that we watch separately.
You keep a list of it?
Just keep it. It's something to do. So I keep a list of things. The greatest thing about just keeping lists of shows we watch and also recipes that we liked that we can go back to and repeat in the evening. Those are the big lists.
Do you write them all on one piece of paper and
no,
okay.
No, thankfully. Oh, Whitney, had I had an iPhone back when I was, in college, all my notes would have been there and it would have been legible. You would have been able to read it. The most recent shows we finished were Queen's Gambit on Netflix and Perry Mason on HBO.
Oh, nice.
Which were both pretty good. I enjoyed both of those.
Nice. I've heard a lot of good things about Queen's Gambit. I have not started streaming that just yet, but I've heard a lot of good. She's the chess player, right?
She's the chess player.
Yeah. Underestimated at first, I guess, and then she just rocks it out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a cool aesthetic too, because it's the 60s, and so everyone looks so stylish.
Right. Let's bring it back. Well, it has been so enjoyable to speak with you, especially for me. I've really, really enjoyed catching up and knowing, what you've been up to. It's been I love to see the hand of God on you. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. And I hope that this film just flourishes. Tell us one more time where we can find it, on social and everything.
It's called Shedding. You can find it on Facebook at Shedding Feature Film and Instagram at Shedding_film. And it'll be out on December 8th on iTunes and Amazon. You can find it there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you to our guest today, and thank you for tuning in. Cheers. Until next time.